Namaskar and welcome to News Connect, where we'll get you over the next 1 hour news and updates from India and abroad, and we'll connect you also with our correspondents who are in the know about these stories and get updates from them. Let's begin with the headlines. 4-day vaccination festival, or Teeka Utsav, is underway across the country today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says that the Teeka Utsav is the beginning of the second major war against corona. He asks people to make major targets at personal, social and administration levels for this Teeka Utsav and diligently to make efforts to achieve them as well. This vaccination festival, or Teeka Utsav, gets huge support from across the country. Total vaccination coverage surpasses 10 crore, with over 35 lakh doses given in the last 24 hours. India to have 5 more COVID vaccines by October. Sputnik is expected to get an emergency use nod in 10 days. Campaigning is in full swing for the 5th phase of Assembly elections in West Bengal. The Union Home Minister Amit Shah holds a road show in Nadia district's Shantipur, and TMC and other parties, their leaders, are holding election campaigns as well. Major success for the security forces in Jammu and Kashmir. 5 terrorists will be eliminated in Anantang and Shopian districts. A search operation is going on for others. The birth anniversary of Jyotira Pulae is being observed across the country today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says that Pulae remained committed to education and empowerment of women throughout his life. In Bangladesh, a hard lockdown is set to start from Wednesday for 1 week. All government and private offices and factories to remain closed to curb the coronavirus. And the first phase of this ongoing week-long lockdown in Bangladesh has been extended by another 2 days. In hockey, India beat the Olympic champions Argentina in the FIH Hockey Pro League at Buenos Aires. India seals a 3-2 win over Argentina in a penalty shootout, with brilliant goalkeeping from PR Srijesh. Our top story: the 4-day Teeka Utsav, as announced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has begun across the country. People in various parts of the country are getting themselves vaccinated like never before. As part of the vaccination festival, Prime Minister Narendra Modi urged people to participate in this Teeka Utsav, calling it the beginning of the second major war against corona. He also asked people to make targets at the personal level as well as social level. He asked the administration to also make targets for the Teeka Utsav and then to diligently make efforts to achieve these targets. As part of this vaccination festival, people across the country are participating enthusiastically. In Delhi, in fact, the eligible people who are above the age of 45 rush to various vaccination centers to get themselves vaccinated. And in Bihar's capital, Patna, people got themselves to the vaccination centers. The COVID-19 vaccine doses were being given out at various centers, and people were waiting in long queues to get themselves vaccinated for their turn. All precautionary measures, of course, were taken, and they are being followed at the vaccination centers. And in Ladakh's capital, Leh, people are not just participating in the Teeka Utsav, they are also telling others to get themselves vaccinated, saying that the Made in India vaccines are extremely safe. Let's listen to some of them.
हमारे देश के प्रधानमंत्री और देश का जो हेल्थ मिनिस्टर है डॉक्टर हर्षवर्धन और पूरे देशवासियों को मैं बधाई देता हूं कि आज हम सब इस जगह पे आ गए जहां पे हम वैक्सीन लगा रहे हैं। लोग डरे हुए थे, घबराए हुए थे, समय हुए थे, अब उसकी गुंजाइश नहीं रहता है क्योंकि कहते हैं कोविशील्ड और कोवैक्सीन का 100% ये नतीजा है कि इससे कोई हताहत या कोई मरने का कोई चांस नहीं है, ना कि वेंटिलेटर पर जाना पड़ेगा।
And people in Madhya Pradesh too are taking part in this vaccination festival. In Bhopal, people who are eligible for the vaccination, they reached various vaccination centers in the city to get themselves vaccinated. Similarly, in Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh, the eligible people above the age of 45 years queued up at a center there and they got their dose of COVID-19 vaccine. Of course, documents of the people were verified before they were inoculated. Uttar Pradesh's Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath visited Shakti Bhavan today in the state to inspect the preparedness for the Teeka Utsav. The Chief Minister urged all the eligible people above the age of 45, that is, to join the 4-day Teeka Utsav and get themselves vaccinated at the nearby centers. Yogi Adityanath said that during the Teeka Utsav, Uttar Pradesh is running a vaccination drive in 6,000 centers.
आज उत्तर प्रदेश के अंदर कोरोना के खिलाफ देश की इस लड़ाई को विजयी बनाने के लिए टीका उत्सव के कार्यक्रम को बहुत अच्छे ढंग से पूरे प्रदेश के अंदर बढ़ाया जा रहा है। प्रदेश के अंदर आज 6,000 केंद्रों में टीकाकरण का विशेष अभियान चलाया जा रहा है। ये टीकाकरण कोरोना के खिलाफ देश की लड़ाई को मजबूती के साथ आगे बढ़ाने और हर नागरिक को सुरक्षित करने के अभियान का हिस्सा है।
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has made 4 appeals to countrymen on the occasion of the vaccine festival, saying that countrymen must focus on both personal hygiene as well as social hygiene during this initiative. He stressed on 4 points. The first one is each one vaccinate one. So this means that people must help those who are less educated or the elderly people or those who cannot get themselves vaccinated by themselves, that is, to get inoculated. The second one is each one treat one, and this means that we must all help those who do not have adequate resources or they lack the knowledge. That's the second one. And each one save one is the third point that the Prime Minister raised, which means that we have to stress on wearing masks so that we not only save ourselves but also those around us. And last and importantly, most importantly, to lead the way to create micro-containment zones is what the Prime Minister says. When we see someone getting COVID, the family or society members, they should create a micro-containment zone by themselves, and if they find that a single case of the virus, then that should come into play. The Prime Minister added that we must also focus on zero vaccine wastage during these trying times as the country must move forward towards optimum utilization of vaccine capability. Now, this is also a way to improve our capacity. That's what the Prime Minister said. At the end, he asserted that we will only be successful if we assure that we are aware about micro-containment zones. We do not move out of the homes unnecessarily. Eligible get vaccinated and wear masks and follow other COVID norms. And the Prime Minister expressed confidence that public participation, awareness and being responsible would be the key to fighting against COVID. India's cumulative vaccination coverage has achieved a landmark of 10 crore with over 35 lakh doses given in the last 24 hours. A total of 10 crore 15 lakh 95,147 vaccine doses were given so far. Now, a total of 35 lakhs 19,987 vaccine doses were administered yesterday, and that was the 85th day of the nationwide COVID-19 vaccination drive. So let's now take a look at COVID-19 update from across the country. So as per the Health Ministry's figures, 90,584 recoveries were recorded in the last 24 hours, taking the cumulative total of recovered patients to 1,20,81,443. Now, with this, the recovery rate currently stands at 90.44%. So India's total active caseload stands at over 11.08 lakhs today. And the country's present active caseload, it consists of 8.29% of the total positive cases. The fatality rate it stands at 1.27%. That's what the fatality rate in India is. Well, in India, as many as 25 crore 66 lakh 26,850 samples have been tested for COVID-19 so far. And according to the Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, 14 lakh 12,047 samples were tested for COVID-19 yesterday. And my colleague Ravi Dhaman now joins us with a few updates on this story. Well, Ravi, the first thing that we should be looking at, obviously, is the Teeka Utsav and the number of people who are coming out. It's a 4-day Utsav. The Prime Minister has highlighted 4 important points, and there has been enthusiastic participation so far.
Well, that's true, Mark. Prime Minister has made a fervent appeal to all the countrymen to make the Teeka Utsav a success in this fight against COVID pandemic. He's issued a detailed statement and also shared the statement on his Twitter account, shared the link to the statement on the Twitter account. In a sense, Prime Minister has sought to convey the urgency of the matter, the importance of the matter, and why this Teeka Utsav will be very important in our fight against COVID-19 pandemic. He has called it another major war against Corona. These 4 days will be, in a way, lay the foundation for our extended battle against the coronavirus pandemic. They to prepare India for a
Yes, Ravi?
Indian corona war.
Oh, we seem to be having a little audio problem with Ravi's phone, but hopefully we will establish a better contact with him. Ravi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, Ravi, because you were telling us a little bit about the Prime Minister's 4 points that he talked about, because it's a 4-day Utsav, and also 4 points. The first point is each one vaccinate one. The second point is each one treat one. The next point is each one save one, and the last is micro containment zones. And he says if we follow all these, then obviously we have an overall coverage in a sense against this virus.
Called all those who can to help those who are less educated and those who are elderly, who cannot go and get vaccinated themselves. They have to vaccinate them. And he's also given a slogan of each one treat one, which will mean that everyone has to help people who do not have the means or they may not know which way to go to get the vaccination done. And Prime Minister has once again stressed on wearing the mask in order to save himself or herself and save the life of others also. And the fourth important thing that he has stressed in his message to the people is the creation of micro containment zones. And he has laid particular emphasis on this, that if there is a positive corona patient in a society or an apartment, the people of the apartment, people of the society have to come together in order to create a micro containment zone and fight with corona in this way. He has also stressed on preventing the wastage of the vaccines in the country, a point which he has been highlighting regularly in all the meetings and his statements. and he
Yes.
has said that we have to move towards zero vaccine waste. And he did wrap up the entire message by saying that the awareness about the micro-containment zones, our determination to not leave the house when it is not required at all these things will factor in and will weigh on the final outcome in the war against the coronavirus. And he has once again stressed that medicine as well as strict adherence to protocols is required to win this fight against the coronavirus.
Absolutely, and zero wastage of vaccines is also a very important point. And the fact is that within a few days we are going to have more vaccines, and by October we'll have 5 COVID vaccines in circulation in India. That's an important aspect because, I mean, if we look at the size of our country and the kind of coverage that we are targeting in a short span of time, this is an important message that's coming out.
Well, that's true. India will soon have 5 more vaccines. The Corona Warriors will have 5 more vaccines. And it will be easier with at least 7 to 8 candidates, vaccine candidates for the entire nation to get vaccinated in this fight against COVID-19. We have been given to understand that the Russian vaccine, Sputnik, will get clearance, emergency clearance, in the next 10 days. So in the next 10 days, we can say India will have 3 vaccines to augment the fight against COVID-19 pandemic, and it will be a shot in the arm for the nation. We have a large population which needs to get inoculated, and these emergency approvals will, in fact, go a long way in getting India ready, more prepared and better prepared in this fight against the pandemic.
One last point, Ravi, also because I think people also need to be aware about the manufacturing, constraints, because the WHO has also put guidelines that vaccine shelf life can only be 3 months. So basically, companies can't be manufacturing such large quantities that they can last over a year. So they have to target only the short term, and as a result of that, the more number of candidates we have, the better it is, the more widespread the chances of a higher manufacturing capacity takes place.
Well, that's exactly, you've hit the nail on the head, Mark. If we have more candidates, more manufacturing facilities that India has can be put to use in preparing those vaccines, and they can be transported to almost all the states of the nation, and the vaccination process can get a boost. It can really act as a catalyst in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. Prime Minister has stressed it more than once that these facilities cannot be erected overnight. The facilities to manufacture vaccines and to create the infrastructure is a time-consuming process. It has to be planned in advance. So India will have to do with whatever facilities and infrastructure it has at its disposal. And during this, the most important thing is that we should not allow the wastage of the vaccines by the time period, the expiry date of the vaccine. We have to make sure that the vaccine is used, people are inoculated before it passes the expiry date.
Thanks very much, Ravi Daman, for those inputs. Moving on then to our next story, the Home Minister, the Union Home Minister, senior BJP leader Amit Shah held a roadshow in Shantipur in Nadia district of West Bengal. It saw a huge crowd participating. Thousands of supporters carrying BJP flags participated in this roadshow. The polling in the Shantipur constituency will be held in the 5th phase of the West Bengal Assembly elections. That's April the 17th. And later, the Home Minister also held another roadshow. This was at Rana Ghat in Dakshin, and 45 assembly segments will be going to the polls. This is the 5th phase we are talking about, scheduled for April 17 in West Bengal. The 6th round for 43 seats will be held on April 22. 35 constituencies will be going to the polls in the 7th phase, which is April 26. The 8th and final phase of elections in the state of West Bengal is the 29th of April, when the remaining 35 assembly segments will be going to the polls. So, speaking about the recent incident of violence in Cooch Behar, the Home Minister said that except for the Sitalkuchi incident, the elections in West Bengal have been conducted peacefully so far. And he also said that after the BJP comes to power in West Bengal, it will end political and poll-related violence in the state.
ये एक घटना छोड़कर बाय एंड लार्ज बंगाल का चुनाव शांतिपूर्ण ढंग से हुआ है। हालांकि कुछ भारतीय जनता पार्टी के कार्यकर्ता चुनाव के दौरान भी 5 से ज्यादा कार्यकर्ता मार दिए गए। इसके लिए भी ममता दीदी कुछ नहीं बोली। परंतु बंगाल का चुनाव शांतिपूर्ण हो रहा है, वो बंगाल में एक नई शुरुआत। पहले कम्युनिस्ट और फिर तृणमूल कांग्रेस ने राजनीतिक हिंसा को बढ़ावा दिया है। बंगाल इससे बाहर आ रहा है। मैं बंगाल की जनता को ये भी वादा करना चाहता हूं कि 2 मई के बाद जब भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार यहाँ मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में बनेगी, ये चुनावी हिंसा, राजनीतिक हिंसा हमेशा के लिए बंगाल को छोड़कर चली जाएगी, क्योंकि राजनीति हिंसा करने वाले लोगों को आप निश्चित रूप से परास्त करने वाले हैं।
The Home Minister also said that West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee incited the people against the central forces which led to the violence.
ममता दीदी ने कुछ ही दिन पहले भाषण किया था कि CIFS, CAPF वाले आए तो उनको घेर लो, उन पर हमला करो। मैं पूछना चाहता हूं ममता दीदी को, एक शार्प सवाल पूछना चाहता हूं कि क्या आपका वो भाषण वो 4 लोगों के मृत्यु के लिए जिम्मेदार नहीं है क्या? अगर आप वो भाषण न करती कि 4 युवा CRPF पर हमला करने का हिम्मत करते क्या? आपने उनको उकसाकर एक गोलीबारी का कारण दिया।
Meanwhile, the Election Commission has ordered the adjournment of polls at the polling station number 126 in the Sitharkuchi Assembly constituency of West Bengal amid reports of violence yesterday. The violence left 4 persons dead and 4 others injured. The poll panel has also ordered that no political leader from any national, state or other political party should be allowed to enter Cooch Behar for the next 72 hours. So Cooch Behar district comprises of 9 assembly constituencies, and the Election Commission also said that the decision was based on the interim report which was filed by the special observers. The EC stressed that the recourse to open fire by the CISF personnel became absolutely necessary in order to save the lives of voters who had lined up at the polling booth, because those of the other polling personnel as well, because their own lives were taken into the hands as a mob had attempted to snatch the weapons of the security forces. So the Election Commission has further directed that the silence period now for the 5th phase as well will be which is the 5th phase is going to be held, as we said, on the 17th of April. So that's going to be extended to 72 hours, the silence period. Thus, no campaigning will be permitted during 72 hours prior to the close of the poll in order to ensure the conduct of free, fair and peaceful elections. In Jammu and Kashmir, 5 terrorists have been gunned down in 2 separate encounters in Shopian and in Anantang districts. The encounter began at Hadipora area in Shopian district between the security forces and the police and the terrorists. This happened yesterday. Security forces, the police are the security forces and the terrorists. So search operation was on when reports last came in, and in a tweet the IGP Kashmir said that the police and the security forces, they made a sincere effort to take the surrender of the newly recruited terrorists, but the parents of the terrorist had also appealed to the terrorist to allow them to surrender, the newly recruited terrorists. But in another encounter that did not happen, of course, and another encounter took place at Semtam Bijbera area of the Anantang district. The IGP Kashmir said that 2 terrorists responsible for the killing of the army Jawan had been neutralized within 2 days. The search operation is underway. The NIA today arrested the police officer Riaz Qazi, an associate of the suspended cop Sachin Waze. This is in connection with the case of the explosives-laden SUV which was found near the industrialist Mukesh Ambani's residence. The NIA Special Holiday Court sent Riaz Qazi to custody till the 16th of this month. Qazi was called in for questioning again by the NIA today and later placed under arrest. A massive fire broke out near the Budhogi area. This is of the new Tehri district in Uttarakhand, and firefighting personnel were working to bring the fire down and under control. This is a wildfire, And the Tehri Divisional Forest Officer Coco Rose said that this blaze has spread to at least 1 hectare of land. Action will be taken against anyone responsible for initiating the forest fire. Today is the birth anniversary of Jyotira Govindarao Pulae, a great social reformer and thinker, a philosopher and writer as well. He is known for his work towards the eradication of untouchability and the caste system, and for his efforts in educating women. He and his wife Savitribai Pulae, they were pioneers of women's education in India. Pule's social activism included many fields that included the eradication of untouchability and the caste system, the education of women and Dalits, and the welfare of downtrodden women. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has paid rich tributes to Mahatma Jyotiba Phule on his birth anniversary. The Prime Minister tweeted, "Mahatma Jyotiba Phule remained committed to education of women and their empowerment throughout his life. His devotion to social reforms will be a source of inspiration for coming generations." Let's now take a look at updates on COVID-19 from across the globe. More than 13 crore 59 lakh people worldwide have so far tested positive for COVID-19, while over 10 crore 93 lakh have recovered from the coronavirus. The deadly virus has so far claimed over 29 lakh 38,000 lives globally. The United States continues to be the worst affected country by the COVID-19 pandemic. So far, more than 3 crore 18 lakh people have tested positive for COVID-19 in the US. More than 5 lakh 75,000 people have died of COVID in that country. And amid the rising concerns over the coronavirus situation in Bangladesh, the government there has decided to extend the ongoing first phase of the lockdown till the 13th of April, which was earlier supposed to end tonight. The week-long lockdown was to end tonight, and it had begun on April 5. But this move, in fact, it comes at a time when the country is already preparing for what's called a hard lockdown, and that is set to start from the 14th of April for another week. According to Bangladesh's Road Transport and Bridges Minister, Obaidul Qadir, he said to the media that the hard lockdown, the ongoing restrictions, which include those on inter-district public transport, they will continue. However, the buses will be allowed to operate within the city limits. Now, early on Friday, the State Minister for Public Administration, Farhad Hussain, had announced that the hard lockdown will be implemented in the country, during which all government and private offices and factories will remain closed in order to control the spread of the coronavirus. Bangladesh is experiencing a sudden rise in COVID-19 cases in that country, with the highest number of deaths reported on Saturday. The country on Saturday had reported 77 deaths in a single day, taking the total in that country to 9,661. And our correspondent Rajesh Jha now joins us from Dhaka. Well, Rajesh Jha, tell us, the situation seems to be getting from bad to worse, but the government has put in place certain measures. One was the week-long lockdown that's currently in place, which they've extended now, and then a hard lockdown. What does this all imply?
Well, Mark, let me give you the latest update.
Yes.
As on Saturday, the death toll was 77, which was the highest since March 7 last year, March 8 last year, when the first case was reported. And today, the latest report that had come just a few minutes back, 78 deaths have been reported. Now, again, this is the highest level in the last 1 year and more. So the situation is continuing to be very grim. Although the number of infections today has gone down a little bit to 5,000 few hundred, coming down from 7,000. Now, the government has taken several steps last week. On 5th of April, they announced that a week-long lockdown would be there. But on the third day of the lockdown, the government announced that public transport, especially the buses, in-city buses, would start flying. They started operating inside the city. Intercity buses continued to be non-operational. Domestic flights remained non-operational, but buses were allowed. Next day, the government announced that the shops will open for 8 hours. So effectively, if you look at the things, the offices are open, the factories are open, only the public transport is partially blocked. Shops have also opened. So this part of the first phase of the lockdown seems not to be very strictly enforced, although the COVID thing continued to grow very fast. Now, subsequent to this, the government announced that from 14th, they will have a hard lockdown. Two important ministers from the government of Bangladesh announced it. And during that period, the public transport and the shops and offices and everything was supposed to be closed. So the official announcement has not yet been made. The government has not issued any order regarding this. But today there was again a little bit of confusion because Obaidul Qadir, who is an important senior minister in the government of Bangladesh, has said that factories may remain open. And public transport, especially buses, may still remain operational in the city. Now, the thing could be clear only after the notification is issued late in the evening. But it means that the government of Bangladesh is struggling hard to balance the need of the people's livelihood along with the need to save the lives of people.
Absolutely.
So it's a hard choice. Government is struggling and trying to find a mean where it can also save people's livelihood and protect people from catching corona, which is again still continues to be very, very severe. And we hear reports about hospitals running out of COVID beds and ICUs. Government has been trying very hard to increase the number of ICUs, but as you know, it's not so easy to improve the number of beds in a short time. But the things are being done from the government side also to take care of the situation. So let us see how things pan out from 14th. But for tomorrow and day after, the government says that the current lockdown kind of a situation will be continued, which is a very soft lockdown. You can see people in the streets. You can see, though the number is reduced, but people can still be seen walking and doing their normal business.
But Rajesh, you know, I mean, is there a concern? I can understand that the situation because of the livelihood concerns. You know, if there is a hard lockdown, that people would want to migrate back to the rural areas from the urban areas. There could be that kind of a situation. Factories would have to be closed. Where would people stay? These are issues that are on the mind of the government at this point in time. And also, you did say that the hospitals are already overcrowded, and the government would probably need the lockdown to be able to enhance their capabilities or to build on the infrastructure, the hospital infrastructure, the number of beds, so that they can take on any further increase. Is that the case?
Well, Lynn, there are reports that people have been leaving the city in some measures. The last time when it was announced on the 5th of April, there was a big rush of people moving out of Dhaka, though the time given was very short, just 24 hours notice was there when people were supposed to be leaving. And a large number of people left. But since the major public transport had been shut, trains are not running, intercity buses are not running, the waterways have not been functional to that extent. The movement of people is limited to their personal vehicles or some arrangements that they have been making. So the similar situation was found last year also, but that was much worse because a huge number of people had left Dhaka. You know, Dhaka becomes deserted at certain times, like on festivals, and during those times, huge number of people left. Now, this time, probably there is a kind of adaptability also coming in. That kind of a rush is not seen. But the fear that you are expressing is that the experts, the National Technical Advisory Group that operates, that advises government about the COVID management,
Yes.
I said that the COVID, the lockdown should be managed strictly, and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has also been stressing so many times that people have to follow it if they want to save their lives, and this is very important. So one doesn't know really how it will be in the near future. But I can tell you that there is no such big rush as we saw last year of people moving out of Dhaka. So things will be clear in a few days when government announces about the public transport and other things. In fact, the EAAB, the Civil Aviation Bureau of Bangladesh, has also, there are reports that they are also thinking of stopping the international flights for a week because the private transport may not be available. But this is again not yet confirmed by CAAB. But all these possibilities are there. So only in a few days' time, we would be able to know what exactly is the situation. But I must tell you that the government is trying very hard, continuing with the COVID vaccination, which has also sort of lost a bit of steam recently because of the lockdown and all. But the government has been trying to control and manage the situation as best as it could, at the same time trying to protect the livelihood of people.
Rajesh Jha, thank you very much for joining us with those inputs. Rajesh Jha, correspondent joining us from Dhaka. Moving on then to our next story, the World Health Organization has said that there is a shocking imbalance in the distribution of COVID-19 vaccines for poorer countries. At a briefing yesterday, the WHO chief said that out of 220 countries and economies, 194 have started vaccination and 26 have not. And of those, 7 have actually received vaccines and could start. And further 5 countries should receive their vaccines in the coming days. But the chief, he further added that COVAX has delivered over 38 million doses of vaccine to over 100 countries and economies in the past 6 weeks. He further hoped to be able to catch up during April and May. Iran on Saturday had imposed a 10-day lockdown across most of the country to restrict the spread of the 4th wave of the coronavirus there. Businesses, schools, theatres and sports facilities have been forced to shut, and gatherings have been banned during the holy month of Ramadan. It starts on the 14th of this month. The country has reported more than 20,49,000 COVID cases. And as per the country's health ministry, Iran has been reporting a new daily average of over 20,000 infections over the last week. The deadly virus has claimed the lives of more than 64,000 people in Iran. A hospital in Ecuador's capital, Quito, it's struggling to cope with the increase in the COVID patients. New areas at the hospital have had to be adapted to treat more patients, and military tents have also been set up in a parking lot. So Ecuador is grappling with this coronavirus wave, a new wave, and the number of infections have gone up. It's exceeded the capacity of the Andean nation's public health system, and they have decreed a state of emergency there. In fact, in 8 of the 24 provinces, night curfews are on. Ecuador has reported over 3,44,000 COVID cases, and the virus has claimed over 17,000 lives in Ecuador. Argentina on Saturday implemented tightened movement restrictions, including the curtailing of leisure industry and also blocking non-essential workers from using public transport after the country was hit by a record number of COVID-19 infections. The country struggles with the second wave of the coronavirus. Last week, night curfew between midnight and 6 a.m. Was announced, and Argentina has so far recorded more than 25,17,000 coronavirus cases and over 57,600 deaths. Facebook has turned its Menlo Park headquarters to a new vaccination site. On Saturday, the social media company welcomed hundreds of local residents to the site, which is being run by a local community health group. People were seen in queue Patients were checked for the eligibility. They were screened for any symptoms and other conditions and then registered for the shot, and they were then allowed to enter the building while maintaining social distance as well as wearing a mask. Colombia's capital, Bogota, on Saturday implemented new restrictions which include a 3-day lockdown to restrict a third wave of the coronavirus infection there. This decision to place additional restrictions follows a spurt in coronavirus positive test rates and increasing demand for ICUs. This is what Mayor Claudio Lopez said, and the measures, they will be re-examined on the 13th of April to determine if another lockdown is necessary there. That's what the mayor further said. Let's go to Myanmar now. Well, Myanmar, the security forces have killed as many as 82 protesters in Bago town. This happened Thursday night and Friday near the country's main city of Yangon, and troops used rifle grenades to break up the protest against the military government in the town. The United Nations in Myanmar on Saturday said that it is following the events in Bago, with reports of heavy artillery being used against civilians and medical treatment being denied to those injured. The UN added that the violence must cease immediately and also called on the security forces to allow medical teams to treat the wounded. In Myanmar, protests continue against the military government, which deposed the civilian government led by Aung San Suu Kyi on the 1st of February this year. So according to the rights group, which is called the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners, at least 618 people have been killed since the protests started. Our correspondent Amrit Pal Singh now joins us with more inputs on this. Well, Amrit, the situation in Myanmar is getting quite bad because we are not very sure about, the reports that are coming in from there. We hear these now. This report about people dying happened on Thursday and Friday, and today is Sunday. So the situation is pretty grim, one would think.
That's right, Mark. The situation indeed is grim. The reports that suggest, now these are reports from multiple agencies and considered fairly credible, which say that at least 82 people have been killed, with a rider that these figures could go up. Now this is from a single town called Bago, which is about 60 miles off Yangon. So this is the biggest killing of the protesters since the March 14 killing, in which close to about 100 people were killed, and since the February 1 coup. Now, now it's all the reports also suggest that that lethal weapons were used upon the protesters in the Bago city, where mortar shells, etc., were found. In some visuals from certain news agencies on the social media do show empty mortar shells on the streets of Bago. So given that it is being considered that there is a serious crackdown on Bago, and till now, if we collate the figures available, now these are credible figures in terms of that these are verifiable figures that have been put on social media. At least 701 people have been killed so far in protests. And the army and the security forces of Myanmar are using force, and upon people, reports say that the bodies of those killed in the Bago protests were dumped on a pagoda, a Buddhist temple they were thrown on the ground there. So, given that there is a serious crackdown that is going on by the security forces, we know, about 14 people were 40 people, I'm sorry,
right.
They were protesters, and they were issued notices and booked for engaging in civil disobedience.
Right.
Also, 19 people were sentenced to death for the killing of an army officer of the Burmese army. So clearly, there seems to be a certain crackdown, and which the world is cognizant about. So, yes, the situation is very grim, Mark.
Indeed. The first point of response, one would think, would come from the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, because Myanmar is a member of that grouping, and they have a significant, economic component. These nations feed off one another in a sense, and it's an important economic grouping. And in fact, India has been hoping that ASEAN would take a lead in this situation. But is ASEAN divided, on what's happening in Myanmar at the current time?
Mark, could you repeat your question? There was some
I was asking you about whether ASEAN, is divided on the current situation in Myanmar.
Yes, ASEAN is divided on the current situation in Myanmar. The countries who share borders and are in the close neighborhood of Myanmar are, either silent or they're not that vociferous in their criticism of the Myanmarese army. But especially those countries which are facing the brunt of the spillover are now slowly voicing concerns, including Thailand and India. If you see the statement by the Indian envoy, our deputy permanent representative at the United Nations
Security Council,
did say that India is cognizant of the situation and hopes to return, that the situation returns to democracy and a peaceful resolution. And he did say that there is a spillover in India. According to reports, in Manipur alone, about 1,000 people had come in, of which 100 were sent back. And so there is a spillover happening of the refugees who are running away from the situation there. But as far as countries, the ASEAN countries you're talking about, yes, there is a division. Some see it as an internal matter of Myanmar, which they're saying that it is for Myanmar to see how they want to deal with it.
Yes.
But there is no sort of vociferous unity, but ASEAN as a grouping has been trying to work out a formula where they can exert influence upon Myanmar. But yes, it doesn't have the political weight, the full force of the political weight behind them, as a collective effort could have probably borne fruit.
And in the past, Amrit, the military junta has been successful, in quelling protests. But this time round, the protests seem to be swelling. They seem to be growing in number, and it's creating, a counter-political force over and above the NLD. I mean, we actually, might see something. So this is not really quite a successful coup, one would think. It's a failed coup because institutions too are not supporting the armed forces. So where do you think this is going? I mean, is Myanmar on the brink of becoming a failed state?
Well, it's too early to say if Myanmar is on the brink of becoming a failed state, but yes, the army or the military junta in its assessment of the kind of reaction to the imposition of a state of emergency, I think that's where they miscalculated. Any society having tasted freedom of democracy would want to stay that way. Myanmar has been under military rule for a very, very long time. And Aung San Suu Kyi had to fight a lone battle for a very, very long time, where she was incarcerated for a very long time before she finally got success, and that too partly democracy was restored. But in whatever measure it was restored, But now we're seeing that this is going far beyond NLD. The kind of support it's receiving from all sections of society, students, factory workers, health workers, even government officials who are openly defying the ban and participating in civil disobedience movement, even armed groups who were fighting the Myanmar state and are now siding with the people. So clearly this seems a situation where the Burmese military hadn't quite anticipated that the situation would spin that way. They're finding it difficult, but still they're using the sheer military muscle to quell the protest. We'll have to see if they are successful, or they'll have to cut some sort of a deal with the NLD in terms of freeing their political prisoners. But
Yes.
I think right now they seem to be in no mood. They believe that they can use the military might, and the world clearly is a divided house.
Okay.
The sort of international pressure that could have borne results is not there. Geopolitics plays its role. Countries have their own vested interests, so they're taking positions based on how it suits or aligns with their own individual interests. So the military right now
Okay.
is in command and believes that they can deal with the situation with the military solution, but it doesn't seem to be dying. I mean, we are well in April, and this started on the 1st of February. So right now the military is holding out. We'll have to wait and watch where the situation goes. But yes, it's not quite to the assessment of the military that this would pass and they would, you know, incarcerate the opposition leaders, or even, I mean, they were the government, so that they would be able to sort of get away with it. But right now, the going is tough for the military junta.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Amritpal Singh, for those inputs. Moving on then to our next story. The U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin has landed in Israel. This is on a 2-day visit, and this is also the first visit of Austin to Israel, and a visit by a senior representative of the Biden administration at that. Austin was welcomed at the Ben Gurion airport by Israel's military chief of staff, Aviv Kohavi. And Austin also visited the defense ministry in the city of Tel Aviv, where he was welcomed by the defense minister Benny Gantz and was given a guard of honor. And during his 2-day visit, Austin is scheduled to hold a private meeting with his Israeli counterpart Gantz. In Hawaii's Honolulu, Hotel Kahala Resort and Hotel was placed under lockdown on Saturday after an armed man fired shots through the door of a guest room and barricaded himself inside. However, there were no injuries that were reported from this incident, the authorities said, as the guests and the staff members were evacuated. Meanwhile, the police waited for the suspect to surrender. Videos on social media showed guests in the hotel's ballroom with the police present at the scene. And the incident started around 6 in the evening when the suspect fired the shots. In China, 8 miners were rescued while 21 others remained trapped in a coal mine that flooded the Xinjiang region. The Chinese state media, that's Xinhua, had reported Xinhua. And also a part of this mine flooded, leading to power outages when 29 miners were working at the mine, which is situated in Xinjiang, Hutubi County. However, the state media outlet Global Times also said that 12 of the miners who remained trapped have been located in the mine as of Sunday and are expected to be rescued, while the further 9 workers have not been located. People in the Central African country of Chad voted to choose a new president. This is a day after violent protests had rocked the capital, N'Djamena, and the presidential elections are expected to bring back power to the incumbent Idris Deby, giving him a chance to extend his 3-decade rule over the state. The 68-year-old Deby is one of Africa's longest-serving leaders and also an ally of the Western powers in the fight against Islamist militants in West and Central Africa. Deby is facing 6 rivals, including the former Prime Minister Albert Pahimi Padapke. This is at a time when several leading opponents are boycotting the race, including the 2016 runner-up Saleh Kebzabo, who had vowed to make Chad ungovernable if Deby wins. And voting started in Benin today as well. This is in a presidential election, as some of the opposition parties there called for a boycott following a week of deadly protests. So that was the Benin vote. And now we are giving you news on sports and hockey. India beat the reigning champions, the Olympic champions, that is, Argentina, 3-2 in the FIH Hockey Pro League match at Buenos Aires. It was a thrilling, action-packed contest. Harmanpreet gave India a 1-0 lead with a superbly executed penalty corner early in the second quarter before a quick-fire double from Martin Ferrero put Argentina in a 2-1 lead at halftime. However, India's Harmanpreet Singh dramatic equalizer ensured that the game finished with the scores locked at 2-2, and when just 6 seconds of the match was remaining, and in a penalty shootout with some brilliant goalkeeping by P.R. Shrijesh, India sealed a 3-2 win over Argentina, and the result sees India move ahead of Argentina up to 5th in the FIH Hockey Pro League standings, having claimed 12 points from 7 matches. Argentina stand at 6th with 11 points from 11 games played. The two teams will face each other again tomorrow. And Tejinder Singh now joins us with inputs on the story and some perspective. Well, Tejinder, the win is good for India's preparations for the Olympics. How's the team shaping up?
Yes, team is shaping up well, and the way they have performed in this tour, it has been really nice. We have seen that they played well in the practice matches as well, and now in this FIH Pro League match, it was an important match against the Olympic champions Argentina. Team is also experimenting a bit because some of the players, this time Manpreet Singh is the captain of the team. He was not the part of the team when India went to the European tour before this, but then he came back in this team. Rupinder Pal Singh, the senior drag flicker, he joined the team, and team is performing well. It's a mix of experience and youth, and the results they have shown are really nice under the coach Reed. They are performing well, and the best point which we can take out from the win yesterday was that it has always been a problem of Indian team playing in the dying minutes where they lose the game, but yesterday what we saw was that they won the game in the last minute.
Yes.
The penalty corner which was converted by Harmanpreet Singh, and it was earned by Captain Manpreet Singh. And another important thing which we saw yesterday was that the team played well in the penalties as well. The senior goalkeeper P.R. Shrijesh performed really well, which
Yes.
was expected from him. But then there was the goalkeeper of the Argentina team is also a very experienced goalkeeper, Vivaldi. He has been named 3 times in the best goalkeeper nominations.
Okay,
but
okay.
the way yesterday Indian players performed, and there was no answer
Sure.
from Vivaldi. So
Okay.
overall, if we see it, there were lots of positives in the game yesterday, but
Okay.
there were also some negatives, and one of the biggest negative was that yesterday team saw 5 cards, which is not very good,
Okay.
and especially in the last few minutes, India got 2 yellow cards. India was playing with 2 players less, but then it we should say that it was a hard-earned win by Indian team, and they
Okay.
have performed recently in this tour and in the European tour. They have performed well, which we could say that going to the Olympics, it's good news for Indian team.
Indeed, well, I mean, you know, it was an exciting finish, obviously, but it's taken India to number 5 in the FIH Pro League. So what does this actually mean?
Well, FIH league was started because earlier the name of the league was, these were the Olympic qualifiers. Then it was named as the FIH Pro League, and the format was also changed. It was changed because they wanted more and more people should watch these games, because earlier in the FIH Olympic qualifiers, all the matches were played in one venue or in one country, but in this case it was decided that the teams will play home and away, this kind of matches, so that more and more people could watch these games in different countries. So that was the format which was decided, so that hockey could be more popular, and at the same time these act as Olympic and World Cup qualifiers for the team who did not who could not qualify, because other teams which qualify are the 5 continental champions and the host country. So it act as a qualifier for these big events. Olympics is coming this year, and India has already qualified. We all know that the teams have been finalized.
Yes.
India is in Pool A, in
Yes,
which Argentina and Australia is also there, so it's going to be a tough ask. But then if we talk about the next World Cup, India has also qualified for that as a host country, because that is happening in India as well. So it is a good,
so good news.
the top teams, they get to play to each other more often because of this league. So
Yes.
these are a few of the reasons why this league
Okay.
was started.
Thanks very much, Tejinder, for all those inputs and explaining the FIH Pro League for us. And with that, we conclude News Connect for today. Thanks very much for watching. But always remember, we are living in tough times, and it's important to keep everyone else safe around you and keep yourself safe. And it's just a simple task. Wear a mask. Wear it properly, covering your nose. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.